Alright, we're going to go back into the back valley back here, and I'm going to test out the WiseEye mini cam for signal strength, because this valley usually is not very good for so it's got the ridge up there. I just tested it back in here. There's a couple scrapes, and then it's a big bowl, and the ridge runs all the way out there, and that's where the field is. So we're going to head back into this valley where a lot of rut activity takes place, and I've always wanted to get a camera back there. So we're going to head back there right now, and we're going to test out the signal strength for this WiseEye mini cam. Before I head too far back in there, I'll show you where I pointed out in the first video. So there's a scrape right here, and then I tested it out coming back in here. They've got a trail, and there's tracks all over the place back in there, and this tiny little clearing back here, here's a scrape, and then back in this valley is where a lot of rut activity takes place. It's thick. I tested it out on this tree right here, and it got medium signal strength, so we're going to take it deeper back into the valley and see how it does. Alright, we're kind of back at the entrance that goes back into the really thick bedding. So I was out there earlier. You see, just panning in here, this is a huge bedding area. It's super thick back in here, and this is kind of an entryway out into the big field area. So I'm gonna get the camera out. We're gonna put it on one of these trees right here, and we'll test it out really quick, and then we're gonna head back further into the valley. Alright, this is the WiseEye minicam, the minicam 2, and then this is my MillerTech battery. This is the setup I'm going to run back in this valley. I'm not 100% sure, since this one only has one antenna, if this will work or not. I brought my old Reveal SK model that has 2 antennas, and it was doing better than I thought. It was getting 3 to 4 bars back in here, so we're going to test this one out and check and see. So give me a minute here. I'm going to plug this in, we'll get it going, and we'll see how it does. Okay. You'll have to bear with me on these tests. I'm doing it with just my cell phone here. So we're going to flip around. I'm going to hold it up to this tree, and we're going to see what we get. Flip this into setup. Hey, I'll take that. Medium signal back here. Alright, I'll take medium signal right here. That's better than what I thought it was going to be with only one antenna. Real test, we're going to head back in here, and we're going to test it out back there. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work back in there, but let's go find out. Alright, we're a little bit deeper. Not quite all the way to the back yet, but this is another spot. I'll show you guys. I had a vine scrape here, but they busted this off, and there's a scrape here. This valley back here, there's a ridge all the way that runs back in, kind of a little bowl. Super, probably the best rut spot that we have, but I mean, you can't get back here without spooking everything out, so we don't really hunt back here. But I usually come through here, and in the early spring, when hunting season's been over for a while, and I walk back in here, and I want to say it was a couple of years ago, I counted all the rubs that I found back in this area, back in here, and it was like 30 plus rubs. So with this here, we're gonna go right over here, and we're gonna test out the minicam and see what it does about halfway back in the valley, and then we got one more spot after this. All right, here we go. We're gonna test in by this tree. So it would probably be facing out that way. Get this into setup. Alright, let's see what we got. Okay, medium signal. Yeah, I'll take that. It's not going red yet, so that's a good sign. So we're going to take it a little bit further back in the valley. This would be the last spot. We'll see if it works back there. This is about as far back in the valley as we're going to get. We were just right down in there, and now I'm going to walk back here because I believe this is a pretty big scrape back in here. At least I think it is. I rarely wander back in here except for maybe once a year when the season's over. That's this right in here. It's at the very, very back edge. That's the ridgetop up there. There was a turkey right in here too. It took off when I was coming back in here. But this is the very back side of this thick bedding area. We're going to test the mini cam out here. WiseEye's got a DC-2 as well, and that one's got 2 antennas. So I think that one would probably be pretty similar to the Reveal with the 2 antennas. I think it would get pretty good reception back in here. But this is the worst reception area on our family land. So we're going to do one final test here and see how it does. Okay, final test. Here we go. Okay, so it's still getting medium signal. Honestly, for just having the single antenna, that's actually better than I thought it was going to do. I thought for sure these last 2 spots it was going to be getting that red light indicator way back in here. But that's pretty good. I will take that. It's exceeded my expectations so far. Alright, that's going to conclude the MC-2 testing back here in what is our area for worst signal back in our family property. So this right here is going to be the setup, unless I break down and decide to get a DC-2 to have back in here. But I'm going to have the MillerTech battery hooked up to this. This battery provides up to 6 months of power without me having to come back in here and check on it. So that's going to be huge, because when it gets close to the rut and when I start hunting, I don't want to come back here at all. So this is going to be a great setup. I finally get to get a camera back in here, which I've wanted to do for so long. So we'll see. This isn't going to be where it's going right now. I'm going to test out the battery life on this, and we're going to go place it in the field right now where I know it'll for sure get some action for photos and videos with deer.